Hello everybody, back at it with our tiny house, and what we're going to do today, or right now, is make that front door. So let's get after it. So you can see from this picture, it's just a very simple black door with 4 little panes here and some muntins that divide up this glass. So let's go ahead and try to model this thing. So this is a family. This door is part of the group that are called families. The families make up the project. So if we go to File and we click New, or we actually don't click, but we just hover right here with New, you can see Project and then Family and then some other things. But what we want is this, the family. These are the custom components that make up your project. And you can do a generic one, which just gives you basically a blank canvas, and I like to use that a lot. But what we want to do is actually use the template called door. Right there, door. We're going to go ahead and click Open. Now, your project didn't close, so don't worry about that. What it did do is it put us right into the reference level, which is just basically the top view section of the door. So if we go to like 3D now, there's our door. We can turn on some shading. There it is. And basically what you have here is a bunch of geometry, a bunch of reference planes that constrain that geometry, and what's called an opening, which actually cuts the hole into the wall. Alright, so they give you this trim, which we don't need. So I'm going to highlight it and just hit delete, and then I'm going to highlight it and hit delete over here. I do like working in 3D for this, just because there's a lot of push and pull, and again, we are not a manufacturer of a door. We're not going to go in and do crazy little details. We're just going to make a model that kind of looks, well, not kind of, but does actually look like a door, and we're going to use it because we're trying to convey that house, and that's really what we're going for here. Alright, so we could do this in 3D, you could do this in this view. Might as well go to one of the interior, exterior views, doesn't really matter. Let's go to the interior view. So this thing right here, just some detailed lines that show how this thing is hinged. The height is 7 feet, which pretty standard. There's also 6 feet 8-inch doors. The width is 3 feet, which is exactly what we want because this is going to be an exterior door, and so we're good. And we could change this by actually, we can click on this and change this value. Getting into the parameters, we don't want to do that right now, but we're good with just exactly what this is. Alright, so the first thing before you do any modeling is you always want to set your work plane. So I'm going to pick this actual wall. It's the way I like to do it. And this work plane thing comes up right here. You go to set, and then you go to pick plane. You can actually, if you know the plane, you can do it that way, but I like to actually grab the wall itself, just like this. Boom. Then what I'm going to do is go over here to where it says Extrusion, and go straight up, straight across, and by default it puts you into the line tool, like so. And right now it's going to do a depth of 1, but I'm going to show you how you can change that. So go ahead and just click OK. Now, when you do that, it doesn't look like anything happened because 1, our graphics are just blank, and 2, we're in an elevation view. So if you actually go over to a 3D view, now you can see that the hole is filled. And if we rotate around, you can see we have this big massive chunk going the wrong way, and we don't want that. So what you can do is actually, you can be super technical with this and go back and reset your work plane and put it back, but I'm just going to push and pull until it kind of lines up like that. Now if you click on it right now, you can see that it's actually start end 6 inches. So you can push and pull and just lock it down to different points, or what you can do is you can use this. So let's get a little bit more exact here, because obviously this door is not going to be 6 inches thick. So let's have our start. Let's have our start be, let's have this be -3 inches. And our end be -5 inches. Go ahead and click OK. Now look at it. Now it looks totally different. Now it kind of actually looks like a door. You can actually go under it and look at it. Looks pretty good. Okay, so moving right along, just some other things that you can do with this beautiful door that we've made is go ahead and jump onto the exterior view, and you'll see, again, back to these, I'm going to just show you really quickly what this does. This parameter here, this dimension, will actually constrain this opening and the extrusion that we just made. So if we actually click on this, click on it twice, you can actually click on the dimension itself. So because the door is actually 3 feet, but we're gonna have a jamb, so it's gonna be bigger than that. So let's just go ahead and make this 3 feet 2 inches. Notice how everything just pushed out and changed our opening. If we go to our 3D view, you can see so did our extrusion. So now what we're going to do, and we're going to do this in this view, let's go ahead and add a jamb to this door, because that's, make it a little bit more realistic. So we're going to create extrusion, and I'm going to set my work plane, pick plane, and I'm going to pick this wall. Perfect. First thing I'm going to do is outline this edge, and then I'm just going to go in 1 inch. Go all the way up. It's 7 feet, so I'm actually going to go 6'11". Go across, and it should be 3. And then back down, and then over like so. So, again, in Revit, you cannot have any overlapping lines. So I'm going to hit escape and just show you this is the geometry. It's got to be perfect. It can't have any overlapping anything. If it does, you'll get an error, and the geometry just has to be a completed perfect box or whatever it is, shape. Alright, so you can go ahead and click OK, and again, I didn't go to the depth, so it's going to be boom, pushed like that, and I don't really care if this overlaps for what we're doing here, so I'm just going to push it back. It's going to lock to the other side. It's going to lock here, and it locks to the midpoint as I see that. There it goes. So this would be our inside, and we can always just flip the door. I'm going to show you that once we put it in our house. And this will be the outside. So looking back at that simple design, let's go ahead and go to the front. And what we're going to do is make the opening for our glass. And actually, we can go ahead and tilt this because it's going to be easier this way. Go ahead and tilt it just a little bit and go to Create. Click on Void. We're going to do a void extrusion. Void extrusions will cut out anything that you are on the work plane of, if that makes sense. And hopefully it will in just a second. So if we go to pick plane, or set work plane, pick plane, we're actually going to pick the shape handle of the extrusion, so the front face of that. Go ahead and click just like so. Now I'm going to rotate to the front. And let's try to use a new tool here. Let's go ahead and do a 6-inch offset for the panel. So let's go ahead and click on pick lines, but this time I'm going to say, alright, my offset is going to be 6 inches. And if you just type 6, it's going to default to feet. And notice the hidden line that shows up. I'm going to go ahead and click there. And I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click the top, And the bottom's always bigger, so I'm going to do let's do a whole foot. So let's do 12 inches, not 21 feet, like so. All right. So new tool, like I said before, you have to have these lines all one nice completed shape, and these are not, because these endpoints don't line up with other endpoints. So what we're going to do is go to the top where we have trim extend, and how this works is you always click what you want to keep. So I want to keep this line, I want to get rid of this, so I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click this line down here and watch what happens. Gets rid of both of those. Now down here I'm going to click here and here and here and here. And the depth is a foot, so depending on which way this goes, if it goes out towards me, it's not going to do anything, but if it goes the other way, it's going to be perfect. So let's go ahead and just click check and see what happens. And it worked. It went to the other way, it went a foot deep, and you can actually see it right there. And now we've cut out that portion for our glass. So, but before that, let's go ahead and make some muntins. Those little tiny divider things that show up. Alright, so let's go to create, extrusion, and this one I'm going to totally just model. So I'm going to draw, I wonder if I can do this. Nope, won't let me. Alright, so I'm in the create extrusion, so we just got to be very careful when we do this. I'm going to draw a line straight down. Hit escape and draw a line straight across like this. Now the reason why I did that is because I'm going to use my offset to make sure this is perfectly placed right here in the middle. I just got to be super aware that I'm going to be removing these two lines at the end of this. So I'm going to go ahead and say click lines, pick lines, and my offset, let's do half an inch. Half an inch, there we go. So I'm going to go half an inch to the left and half an inch to the right. So now you have three lines right here in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing for this line down here in the middle. I'm going to do 0.5. So I'm going to do half an inch on the bottom, half an inch on the top, and now I have three horizontal lines and three vertical lines. I'm going to go ahead and delete the middle line of both. Grab a line tool, just a regular line, connect those two, connect these two, connect these two, and connect the top two. This is good that we did it this way. If you were to hit click the checkbox here, you'd get a bunch of errors because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of geometry, and you can have multiple pieces of geometry, but they cannot touch. So we need to somehow get this to be one big shape. And to do that, we're going to use this little tool. I like using split element with the trim. I do not like using split with gap. So I'm going to show you split element first. So just click split. I'm going to click right here in the middle. It's got to be right there in the middle. I'm going to click right down here in the bottom. I'm going to click right here and right here. Alright, it didn't look like it did anything, but it did. It actually made a bunch more entities that we can use. Now grab the trim tool, and I'm just going to click what I want to keep. And there we go. So now we have our nice dividers for our window pane. And this time, because we know our door, I can't remember what we made our door. I made our door 2 inches thick. So let's play around with these numbers right here. So we're at 0, so let's go ahead and offset the extrusion negative. Negative. Let's do negative 1. Oops, negative 1 inch. And we'll do the end negative 2 inches. And let's see what happens here. Go ahead and hit the checkbox. Pretty good, except the back hit there because it's one 1 inch. So let's go ahead and just click on that extrusion. And let's play around with these numbers. So instead of 1, let's go back 0.5. And instead of 2, let's go back 1.5. Hit apply. Look at that. Now it's perfectly placed in the middle. So we got our dividers, and now it's time to make the glass. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say create, extrusion. We always set our work plane, pick plane. I'm going to pick now the muntins, or those dividers, just like that. I'm going to rotate my view so I can do head on, and this one's really simple. All you got to do is grab that box, and we're just filling in those gaps. Beautiful. I'm going to hit escape a bunch of times. I'm going to rotate my view back to that nice isometric view. So if we did this now, we'd make that as thick as the actual muntin itself, but again, we don't really need to do that. Let's go ahead and let's do this point. Doesn't like that. Let's do this 0.5 and the top one 1. So it's only going to be a 1/2 inch thick glass, which is probably more accurate. Anyway, go ahead and hit apply. And hit the check box. No, wait. Before we hit the checkbox, oh, if you did, since I said that, that looks pretty okay. But look at, again, same thing happened over here. But now you're looking at this and you're like, what the heck? We just filled in all that stuff we just did. Exactly. We need to fix that. So let's go ahead and click on that extrusion. Make sure you click the right one. If you're having trouble, remember tab cycles through. And let's change these numbers. Let's change this. Let's change this to 1/4, and this to 3/4. And down here where it says material, we're going to go ahead and click by category, hit the 3 little dots. And glass is always in here as a default. So this is the default glass, and we can play around with this later if you don't like it. But we're just going to hit glass and hit OK. And now look at it. It looks like an actual door. We are not going to do the door handle or anything crazy like that. But we are going to go ahead and change the material right now of the door itself. And we're just going to make it black paint. We're not going to go into, you know, like it's wood and the outside. These are jamb. These are you know, poplar or something. We're not going to do that. All we're going to do is make it black. So I'm going to come down here and say create new material. Right click, rename, and I'm just going to call this black. Again, these are just the basics. So I got black over here. I'm going to say use render appearance. And I don't like using black, but I always like just pulling this down and grabbing something a little bit more. We could use an image. We could give it less glossiness. It's non-metallic, which is what I want. Image fade. You could do all sorts of things. If you want a shiny door, not going to get into that right now, but you can play around with that and see what happens. And now look at it. Now it's black. So now that I've made that, I can actually go over here and just click black and click OK. Click black and click OK. There's our door. Looks great. Now, before I do anything, I'm going to go to, I should have done this at the very beginning, is File, Save As, Family, and wherever you're saving things, I'm going to call this Front Door. Save. So now the front door has been saved, because if you don't save it, it's going to be named Family 1, and you probably don't want that. So I load it up, and it should be right here, ready to go. And depending on where you are, we can put it in the first floor. And now once I click first floor, I've lost it. So where is that door that I just made? I'm going to go back to architecture, and right here, it should be in your doors because we used the door template. that's going to be in the doors. So, and again, we did not really do much to this, but you can see, you can just go ahead and, I don't know, I'm going to put it right, let's say the garage is over here, like in the picture. I guess it would be like that. And let's go ahead and jump on 3D view. Hey, look at that. Look at that beautiful door. Hot dog. Amazing. Alright, some things we can do. If we go back to first floor, you're looking at that and you're like, man, that doesn't even show the swing like on a real architecture drawing. How can we show that? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I'm going to edit family. And so here is my beautiful, beautiful door. And what you can do is over here and annotate, you have these things called, where are they? You have symbolic lines. And if you click on symbolic lines, I mean, you can, there's a whole bunch of actual plan, swing, door projection. There's a whole bunch of things that, because we're in that template, this is what we're going to get. You know, we got the frame and the mullions, or the muntins as I was calling them. So right here, plan, swing, projection. So let's go ahead and click that one. And this is a 3-foot door, but you know what? It doesn't really matter that much. Doors are gonna residential doors are gonna open in. So from here, I'm just gonna go up 3 feet, and then I'm gonna use center ends arc. So I'm gonna click that, and I'm gonna click there, and then I'm gonna just draw my arc over like that. So that was a 3-foot arc. You notice it doesn't actually clear it because the door itself is, and I went to the Jamb. So you can actually just move that in. If we want a true swing, I guess it really doesn't matter. It's just going to be a representation. We know this is a 3, and I just messed that up. Oops, there we go. So there it is. Now the swing is actually on the door and not the door jambs. You can also take this because it's inside. You can push it in, although it's probably going to give you some reaction to that, so I wouldn't do that. So even though those overlap, don't worry about it. Again, just practicing the model. And then every time you do anything to this, you need to bring it back into the project. And we say, yep, overwrite, existing, and there you go. You can see now, my door is swinging out, which is not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to click on it and grab that right here. Voila. Now I can see that my door swing, and there it is. What a beaut.